Please welcome Jon Wick, founder of 5518 Designs.
Super cool to be here. Thanks, everybody. My name is Jon Wick. I'm the real Jon Wick. I'm not that Keanu Reeves knockoff that I haven't seen a cent from those movies. But yeah, lucky for us, you guys get the real one today. I'm the owner and founder of 5518 Designs. We're located up at 27 North Main Street here in town. I expect to see all of you later on this afternoon walk through my doors. That's a threat. So I'm an accidental business owner. In a different life, I was a 5th grade teacher. I'm a Midwest kid, and I got out here. If you guys recognize that building, that's in Phillipsburg. So I was a 5th grade teacher and a coach there for 4 years. And if you guys have spent any time there, it is an amazing valley, super cool community, and it helped me kind of fall in love with Montana. I guess where I want to go with this is a side note real quick that I was kayaking up at Georgetown Lake and I saw a girl on a dock across the way. Went over there. It was the best decision of my life to go and introduce myself. So that's Cassie. Not long after we met, we decided, because we're super logical, that the best idea for us is to pick up and move overseas. We spent a year teaching English in South Korea. And it was a super cool opportunity to travel all over Asia, experience all of that. And while I was over there, I blogged and I did a bunch of travel writing, and I took a lot of photos. And basically the reason for that was to make sure that my mom knew I was still alive on the other side of the planet. I did get published a handful of times in some print and online journals, which was really cool. And it was one of the best years and challenging years simultaneously. So when we got back to Butte, we kind of had a home base here, and I was just going to figure stuff out from there on out. I wasn't terribly excited to get back into the field of teaching. And I'll never forget, Cass looked at me one day and she said, "Hey, you were really good at taking pictures. You took 1,000,000 of them. You wrote really well. That's a thing." So when I got back, I started to think, yeah, that might be a thing. So I found the graduate program at Montana Tech and enrolled in the technical communication department there. And really what that did was kind of solidify everything that I just enjoyed doing anyways. The master's project that I did was to rebrand the Butte 100 mountain bike race. And at that time, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that race, it's awesome, it's still kicking butt to this day, and something I'm really proud of. But back in the day, they didn't really have anything. So this was like logo, websites, social media properties, flyers, and video photography, just kind of like, we need to get you up and running. So we did that, and we published a small race Bible that they still use to this day, which is pretty cool. Towards the end of grad school, word got out of what I was doing with the race, and other people started asking me to do similar projects. So I thought, hey, maybe that's a thing as well. So I went up to the courthouse, got myself a business license, and you're looking at the first iteration of 5518 Designs. That computer is at the exact elevation of 5,518 feet. Not all that original, but it works. So I freelanced for a while, kind of built up some cool clients, and at one point I decided to print up some foam trucker hats, just like this, as kind of thank you presents to those who I was working with. Again, my friends got word of it and started to give me money for these things, which to me that was kind of a new concept, like selling my own things. So that kind of like, I was like, wait a minute, this is kind of one of those light bulb ideas, I might be able to sell some of my own things. But every good story has an adversity. In 2014, I was diagnosed with cancer. I'm happy to tell you guys that I stand here today and I am cancer-free, which is pretty cool. And it's, you know, it kind of put a stop sign on a lot of things, and you know, through the chemos and the radiations and the surgery that took out half of my insides, the one thing that I kind of did throughout that whole shenanigans was be creative. And I really started to gravitate towards this kind of stylistic approach, and I think it's kind of a result of all of that craziness, where we really kind of focus on real vibrant colors, real like purposefully simplistic designs, with themes that we can all relate to because it's what we love to do. It's what we enjoy about being here and about being where we are. We started calling them simple places. This is our campfire design. And soon after we started doing that, we kind of reinvested a little bit of our money into creating the worst farmer's market booth imaginable. It's not good, so when you go to your next farmer's market and see something like this, support them, because that's where we were at some point. So this was our first ever farmer's market booth, and we also did some pop-up shops in that time. And it was kind of our first step into that decision of like, let's try this, let's sell some of our own things and see what happens. Let's back up. Towards the end of the summer, this farmers market was really successful. It was a really cool way to kind of be a part of a community and be a part of an event. Towards the end of the summer, people started asking us where they can find our items for Christmas presents. So that was another like light bulb moment where like, wait a minute. I remember Cass and I had this discussion when we were like, we might be those people that might be able to do something. You know, we always say, I wish we had this or I wish that happened. And we looked at ourselves and said, we might be those people. So we started to do some research. I found some manufacturers here in town that have some fantastic high quality. I'm proud to say we still print and embroider everything right here in town that we do. And yeah, we think that's really cool. And we have the ability to do that too. Not everywhere has that. We started looking for buildings, and we were kind of particular about where we looked at things. We wanted space, but we didn't just want a space, we wanted a space that mattered.
Hey everybody, this is Jon Wick. I'm the owner, founder of 5518 Designs in Butte, and I want to thank everyone, the whole crew at the Innovation Conference for asking me back, kind of giving you a little update on where we've been since last year, about this time when we had our presentation there. 2020 has been challenging. I don't think that's a surprise by anyone, but I think the best way to kind of give you an update is to just turn back the clock to January-ish. I know no one wants to go back to January and try to live through this again, but I think that's the best way to move the timeline forward and kind of catch you up to speed with everything that we've done here to kind of to best weather the pandemic, and let you know what we've the strategies that we utilized and implemented. So when I left you at Innovation, we had some really cool and exciting plans to renovate our store. We actually started that renovation in January, and we were so this year 2020 started on a real high note. We were excited about the renovation plans. It kind of felt like a new phase for 5518 to really kind of grow up. And what we ended up doing was we took our building, it's a 137-year-old building, and we basically renovated the entire back half of our store. And that consisted of more or less just gutting the entire place down to the brick and rebuilding our office, storage, kind of a break room. I mean, it went down as detailed as like new stairs to go downstairs to our storage. So that really kind of made us feel like we're growing up and becoming a real store, which is kind of exciting for the entire staff, myself. It's the first office I've ever really had in my life. So that was pretty cool. 2020 started on a high note, and retail sales and our client design projects and stuff were right on par with the January and Februaries that we've had in the past. So we were just kind of rocking and rolling and getting on with it. March came, pandemic. We kind of saw pandemic coming. And just like a lot of other people, we had no idea what to do. We ended up making the decision to close on March 15th, a few days before St. Patrick's Day. We were one of the first businesses here in town to close. And we just needed to like figure things out. I feel as the owner, I feel a responsibility to make sure people, both my staff, my own family, the people who walk in the store, I feel a responsibility to keep them as safe as possible. So we made that choice to close. 2 days later would have been our community's St. Patrick's Day. festival. And so we immediately felt the impacts of that. Not only lost sales, a lot of lost sales, it's a busier weekend for us. But I also had an entire store full of green. So I've had those purchases already taken care of that I had to box. In the basement right now, I've got 8 or 10 boxes of green clothes that are all paid for. So it was kind of a double whammy there with St. Patrick's Day. And that just kind of is what it is. We had to make that call, and we did. I don't regret any of that. But moving forward, what we had to figure out is what to do. So in a time of such uncertainty, like a pandemic where no one knows what's going on, and no one has answers, we just need to figure it out on our own. So luckily my staff, my employees are awesome and super flexible, and I really appreciate that. We kind of had a couple like Skype meetings, and I kind of told them, I don't know what to do. What do we think? And what ended up happening is we pivoted everything online. Instead of shuttering completely, we did have e-commerce through our website that we could sell to. It was never really a focus of ours. We were always kind of in the quagmire of making sure that the store is up and running and doing the best we can here in the brick and mortar. So we just kind of pivoted and started to push our e-commerce. And what that means is I had some girls come in. We ran really small crews, and we inventoried everything in the store. And then we updated all of our inventory so that our website and our e-commerce were as accurate as possible. And then what we did was we basically utilized our online communities, our Instagram, Facebook. We even dipped our toe into TikTok for a little while there. We'll get back to it. But we utilized our community online and started pointing them in a different direction, which thankfully for us, we had that infrastructure built. So like we had a little bit of e-commerce. We had our community online that we've been trying to build for quite some time. And so it was just kind of redirecting them. And so that was a fairly seamless transition. But we had the challenge of how do we stay relevant when people are scared and they don't know about their jobs and their money situations and things like that. I understand that they're probably not going to buy t-shirts, right? Or things along those lines. So we needed to make sure that people just straight up didn't forget about us. So what we went to the drawing board. We developed kind of a schedule for Instagram flash sales. So every few days we just marked something way down and marketed it to our social medias. We figured out how to do curbside pickups. So when people did purchase things, they were comfortable it was comfortable to come and drive up, give us a call, and then we ran it out to them. We beefed up our shipping supplies, so we had some purchases there. We also did this kind of a really memorable thing for me anyways. We did mystery packages, and we sold mystery packages online where people would just buy a shirt size and we would pick it out. And a really cool story, we had a few people purchase these gifts for doctors and nurses on the front lines doing their thing, and we wrote some really cool messages just for thanking them, and like a little gift to feel normal for a little while, which I thought was really cool. And I even went as far as taking a bunch of our designs and creating a coloring book as a free download for families and groups that are trying to homeschool and things along those lines. And what allowed us to do that was the paycheck protection. That was a really big help for us, just because it bought us time to kind of regroup and figure out how to proceed. So that kind of was a perfect Band-Aid to allow us to figure out what to do next. As far as like our mission, a lot of the things that I kept thinking about during the pandemic when it was slower was what do I want to do now that I have a little bit of extra time, right? So it allowed us to kind of refocus on our bigger mission, which I thought was really cool. And even throughout a weird shutdown when we were super closed, we came up with some different ideas to just try to like become a beacon of positive energy as best that we could. So what we ended up doing is we put a call out for yarn pom-poms. And we have a tree out in front of the store, and we basically just said, hey, we know you guys are at home. We know you're bored. You may have some yarn in a drawer somewhere. Like, make a pom-pom and hang it on our tree. And then hopefully everyone who drives Main Street will at least have a little bit of a smile, or something like that. So that was really cool. We had pom-poms sent from us from New Mexico and California, and it was pretty cool there. I also showed up one day, and our tree had a sweater around it. So somebody came with a yarn ball and just wrapped the trunk. And it was just a really cool surprise. And kind of one of those things that was like, oh yeah, there's some silver linings in the midst of all this. We also did, my wife Cassie organized a scavenger hunt with some uptown businesses where we just gave them a call and said, post something, just tape something to your front window. And then we put out a call to the community and just said, hey, here's another idea. Take your family and figure out some clues and go to some different businesses and figure out the clues and have a good evening and email us the answer to the scavenger hunt. And we had more people than we thought participate in this kind of fun walking, socially distanced activity that we could provide. So we tried to just come up with some fun ideas that didn't like hurt our bottom line and was a good message from us to the community that, hey, we get it. We know what's going on. And we want to help. On the design side of things, I was allowed to continue our design side as far as like client graphic designs, logos, flyers, video work, and stuff along those lines. Our design studio kept going. And what I did there was I contacted all of our business clients at the time, and I said, hey, I get it. I did get some money to continue working on the design side, and our designer was awesome, and she was working from home. And I said, we're going to keep going, and don't worry about money right now. We'll bill you in July. And everyone was really cool with that. And luckily, we're in one of those positions where we're fortunate because we had a little bit of cash flow, just enough cash flow from the retail side that we could do something like that. And we could eat those costs until invoicing could happen. But that was kind of one of those ways to reach out to the business side of our clientele. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I'm not gonna we were down 50% for a few months, and that's just not sustainable. And that was concerning, and there were some dark days, and without that team around me, those are the times where it's like, oh, guys, I got nothing. What can we do? And we kind of all grouped up and we're all on the same page, which led to really good things, I think, in the end. We ended up being closed for 52 days. I've got some notes here. 52 total days. And then in the middle of May, we did some soft openings just on like Friday and Saturday to see how it would go. And what we ended up doing, we applied for the business adaptation grant and got some money to offset those costs for things like all of our masks, cleaning supplies. We got some plexiglass for our counter, and all of those kind of like necessary things that we needed just to conduct business. So that was super helpful. And we opened back up, and we were right back in. And we were rocking and rolling again. Obviously, it was still slower, but it felt normal and it felt better. And I mean, a lot of what I talk to people about is like, gosh, this just doesn't feel right, or it does. This feels right. We should do that. And I think that's a lot of our decision making is based on kind of intuition and feeling, which is a little bit different for me to logic through. We opened, so we were back open, and then we expanded our hours a little bit more towards like more typical hours for the summertime. Our renovation finished, and it took so much effort not to throw a big party because I'm just excited. We built a little log cabin in the back of our store, which is my office here that we're sitting in. And we just wanted to celebrate that. And it just didn't quite feel right to advertise or to promote a party, a gathering. So we're going to let it slow burn and let people discover our cabin all by ourselves. But we kind of went back to typical hours with some typical staffing, and the summer was good. I think what I learned from there on out was not only were we back open for regular retail business, But those strategies that we implemented during the pandemic, during our shutdown, were also still going as well. So we continue to sell more online, we continue to ship, and we continue to do curbside service for those comfortable with curbside service. But we were also open as retail. So our business was doing quite well because we basically had all these other revenue streams that we established just to survive, and they're just going to continue. So summer business was good with those new avenues. And what that did was allow me to realize the value of that social media and that connection and the value of our community. So since then, we've added a new position, a digital, what do we call it? We've added the digital marketer, digital strategist on staff. And what that is, we leaned into our digital side is basically what happened, where we've got somebody who can solely focus now on creating content for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're starting an email list so that we can just better communicate to those people who've supported us and to talk to our community and utilize them. And like we've always wanted to, and I'm sure this was pretty clear during last year's presentation, but we need to sell T-shirts and we need to sell apparel and we need to sell things from our store to keep the lights on and to pay our employees. But 5518 is we've got a bigger mission than that. And I think that utilizing our community and seeing that in action through the pandemic has really been enlightening and motivating for me to kind of get back to that bigger mission. I've had to grind for a few years to get the store up and running. This pandemic was something else. But since we're getting through there and we've established some strategies to kind of continue through a pandemic and whatever else happens in the future of a pandemic, that it's time for us to kind of like, revisit the fact that like now the store's it's doing well enough that we can get back to some of those bigger missions. Moving forward, that kind of brings us to today. Moving forward, that's where my thoughts are is I want to see what we can do, or I want to kind of brainstorm about things like philanthropy and how we can leverage the store for the greater good. We have a few programs right now. We have a Roundup at the Register program that donates some funds to local organizations that kind of rotate throughout the year. We donate a portion of our sales from all of our Montana Tech apparel to a Butte scholarship. And to me, that's just the start. I see big things in the future as far as what we can do for our community and what we can do for our town and the people who support us. There's a lot of ideas we're throwing around. I won't even get into that. Just pay attention or keep an eye on us on our Instagrams, and we'll be announcing stuff like that. But philanthropy is one of those things that I think is going to be a next phase for us. I'm also trying to lay the groundwork for a sales position whenever the opportunity to do something like that exists, so that we can better service our wholesale stores and try to expand our wholesale. And I think that would be a whole nother position in the future. And yeah, one of the challenges moving forward is recently we've had kind of a round of quarantines and self-quarantines. My staff has been amazing at being really upfront with everything on the health side of what's happening right now, and I really appreciate that. But it is still a challenge to kind of say, all right, well, who's available to work this week? And how do we fill in the gaps and things along those lines? We did actually hire on a couple more on the retail side just for extra hands when there are gaps and things along those lines, and that's been helpful. So that's been kind of a challenge, just our sheer workforce and who is able and healthy enough to work currently. And another challenge that we've been facing is supply chains. The most prevalent challenge on the supply side is we just, for example, we can't find as many hats to embroider as we'd like, and it's difficult to fill orders simply because our supply chain is not there, and goods are not available for us to get. And I'm sure that's a bigger issue, but it's still a challenge for us on the trickle down. So it's an opportunity to be upfront, really transparent with a lot of our orders and businesses that we work with. So communication is a real key, is a key thing that I'm focusing on just as kind of the owner of this place, to just be upfront with people as far as timelines and supplies, and to be upfront, and vulnerable or be vulnerable with my staff, and just kind of, it's okay to not know what's going on. And I think everybody realizes we're just all trying to do our best in the midst of a time when we have no idea what's happening. But for the most part, I'm super thankful. I know that many businesses are struggling. I've been there. I know what that's like. And I want to be thankful for the people who support us, and hopefully we can share some ideas that will help others too. So thanks to the innovation crew again. I'm excited for the future of you guys. I think innovation, there's some serious challenges that need some innovative and creative answers. So what you guys are doing is excellent. So keep up the great work, and thanks for having me.